According to Elections Canada, this federal election could turn out to be the most expensive election in the country's history. The estimated price tag for this election could be as much as $610 million, which would be $100 million more than the 2019 election. This while the inflation rate reached 3.7% last month, according to Statistics Canada. This was the biggest increase to year-over-year consumer prices since May 2011. A major annual increase was homeowner replacement costs, which rose 13.8%. That is the biggest increase since October 1987. Joining us today to dive into the expenses associated with the election is Mr. Franco Terrazzano, the Federal Director of the Canadian Taxpayers Federation. Sir, welcome back to Forum Daily.
Hey, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
So let's start with this, sir. The inflation rate reached 3.7% last month. What is the significance of this growing number here?
Well, the first thing that we have to remember is that you can't talk about the cost of living without talking about how the government increases the cost of living. So the average Canadian family is already paying more than 36% of its budget to taxes. Now, that's more than what a family is paying for the necessities like food, housing, and clothing combined. And not only are we talking about the taxes that we all know about, but we also have to talk about the inflation tax, because when the government puts the printing press on overdrive, it means there's more dollars in our economy, which means that the dollars that we already have buys less.
Now, considering that this is the biggest increase since May 2011, what do you think led to this growing rate here?
Well, I think there can be a lot of different things, right? You have to look at what's happening in different markets, but I think one of the broad things that all Canadians need to be worried about is the inflation tax, right? When the government is printing more and more money, you have more dollars chasing fewer goods, which means that the money that we already have goes not as far in terms of buying the goods and services that we rely on.
Now, talking about the election here, how are party leaders responding to this rising inflation as they continue their campaigns across the country?
Well, we heard Trudeau, who says that he's not thinking about monetary policy, which is just absolutely mind-boggling. If you want to talk about affordability, then you have to be talking about the printing press. But now, in stark contrast, we heard Conservative leader Erin O'Toole, who says that he wants to keep inflation low.
Now, turning to tax credits now, Mr. Terrazzano, we know they're aimed at making things more affordable for consumers, but how would they impact items that are already high in demand, like housing or energy?
Well, I don't want to dismiss policies to keep more money in people's pockets, but what we should be seeing from party leaders is not just niche tax credits. We need to see real and broad-based tax relief. We need to see income tax rates going down. We need to see business tax relief, right? We need to see more money being kept in families' pockets and businesses' pockets. So we need to see our party leaders do better than just tax credits.
And what have you been observing in terms of what each party has to offer Canadian taxpayers?
Well, one of the big issues is, when are we finally going to get a balanced budget? Now, the Trudeau government, so far the Liberal Party, we haven't heard much from them on balancing the budget. We do know that under the status quo, we wouldn't see a balanced budget until 2070, which is completely unacceptable. From the NDP, we've heard a bunch of new tax hikes would be coming in, income taxes, business taxes, even a wealth tax, but the NDP still has no idea how it would balance the budget. Now, the Conservative Party, they said they would aim to balance the budget within a decade, but unfortunately, it doesn't seem to be very much of a credible plan. From the Conservatives, we're essentially hearing, trust us, and in a decade, we'll have done something good.
And considering this rising inflation rate, how does this affect the election in terms of government spending?
Well, I think one of the huge issues that we all need to grapple with is the massive government spending and how we're going to pay for it. And we need to remember that the government was spending all-time highs, inflation adjusted and real, so population growth, even before COVID-19, spending all-time highs. Then during COVID-19, we saw a massive increase in spending, and Budget 2021 under the Trudeau government expects to increase permanent government spending by $100 billion by 2026. So we need these parties to actually come to the table with proposals to rein in the bloated budget.
All right, sir, just about 45 seconds left now, but bringing it back to our viewers, how does inflation affect everyday Canadians who may be wanting to buy a house or go on a road trip or even buy groceries?
Well, we just have to remember that government significantly increases the cost of living, right? When we talk about gasoline, well, up to 42% of the gas price comes through taxes. When we're talking about how to reduce the price of housing, well, the first thing that politicians need to do is just not raise taxes on our homes. So we have to remember that when we talk about the cost of living, it is our governments, our politicians that are significantly increasing that cost.